They got to be quiet out there, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Folks, welcome to a special edition of the Jake Feinberg Show here at the Mesa Art Center. Art of the Rhythm section.
Stop, Jake.
Yes.
Everybody in the back, we're just doing this, okay? Can we have quiet? Thank you.
And milestone moment in my career, on the backs of the real heroes of our society, melodic improvisers, Kenneth Barron. I'm going to call you Kenny. Kenny, I don't call you
Please.
Kenny. Kenny, Ron Carter, Billy Cobham, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Can we say that all together? All together now. All together now.
Ron, I wanted to ask you, do you believe that rhythm sections are the true creators of new musical vocabulary on the bandstand, like what you did at the Plug Nickel? Larry Klein told me you, Tony, and Herbie took a blood oath that you were. I just would like you to go through the story of increasing musical vocabulary in the rhythm section.
Well, let's go to Larry Klein. I'm not sure who he is, but we never had a blood oath to change what we were playing. I don't know that story.
What's the story of the Plug Nickel, though? Because Miles apparently was, you were bored to death of that stuff.
Well, wait a minute. I mean, how are you hearing these stories? I don't know anything about that kind of stuff at all.
I've been doing 3,500, and I'm just at, how do rhythm sections increase musical vocabulary?
Wait a minute. Wait. Let's just get the ground rules straight here. If you ask me a question, I'm going to try to answer it. Now, I don't know those rumors about the Plug Nickel. All I can tell you is this. We didn't know it was recording until a year later when they put the record out.
When?
And
Really?
someone gave me the record. So I took the record down to the union, took it to Columbia. They paid us whatever the scale was for a live recording.
Mm-hmm.
During the course of that same week, however, I commuted to New York because my son Miles was just born that week. So I played the show 2 sets a night, whatever it was. Take a 2 o'clock plane back to New York. It's like an hour, not very long flight, 2.5 hour flight. Get to New York at something like 6 o'clock in the morning. Either go to Manhattan for my theory class or sit with my wife and the new baby until 6 p.m. that night. Take a plane back to Chicago in time for the first set. Did that for 3 nights. That's the story of Plug Nickel. Whatever room.
Wow!
Amazing.
Wow! Whatever
Whatever room, you can just put those rooms in your local trash can.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with that stuff.
I'd like you to talk about,
Thank you.
as a rhythm section, whether it's you and Billy, you and Tony, do you believe that rhythm sections are responsible for new musical vocabulary?
In and of themselves, no, but they certainly assist in that process.
Explain, if you could explain how.
They have to trust that the horn players, whoever they are aware of the backdrop of their solos, which is piano, bass, and drums in this case. And that our input and impact on their solos play a major force in whatever direction they choose to take their solo. We're not individually responsible for them playing differently necessarily. As a group of 3 in this case, our individual concepts of how to play rhythm, how to play changes, how to be a presence in the construct of a solo, and monitoring the form, and maintaining whatever musical intent the band has, we share in that responsibility. And depending on the horn player's ability to trust our judgment, to trust our direction of the music, hopefully it will help them play notes that they practice at home that don't work tonight. You can find a new set of notes. I call it their kitchen solos. And the more we become accustomed to this horn player's ability or affinity for something new coming at him, depends on whether we are continuing to experiment with our own harmony differences and our own rhythm differences and our own physical dynamics. Once we agree on a process that the rhythm section is a part of, that may make music and in itself move, but us by ourselves, I think we don't have that kind of sheer power to change the direction of music in and of itself. We help that process. We encourage that process.
Could you give an example? First of all, people want you to project out because what you're saying is very inspiring. Can you talk about a time in your career when what you're talking about went down with you?
All the time, man. It's going on at this concert tonight. Whatever we play.
Explain how it goes on tonight.
That's too complicated for a show, man.
Okay.
To do that right now, take me at least a half hour, because we haven't played yet tonight. I can tell you when it's all done.
Right, but I mean, I guess what I'm talking about is like the transitions of jazz specifically have not grown very much. So what I'm trying to get at is like,
The what hasn't grown?
like from going from bebop to post-bop, okay, there has not been a lot of new language. So all I'm getting at is the idea of rhythm sections. If there was a time in your career, early on in your career, where you could talk about that taking place.
You know, I can't go back that far.
Okay, so let me ask you one more question.
82, man.
One more question.
You know,
Well, wait, let me just finish what he was saying first.
yeah, you know, that kind of question.
I mean, we get deep in the weeds on my show, but I mean, I get it, you know.
Yeah, I'm not a weed guy, though.
You're urban guy,
I'm not
urban
a
guy.
DDT guy, you know, a banned pesticide. I'm into that kind of stuff.
You this morning at the
Clinic.
at the retreat, you were talking about electric bass players
Yes.
getting overly, basically, kind of. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I want you to talk about the reasons why electric bass players can get into a rut, so to speak.
No.
Yeah, I want you to articulate it.
No, you didn't. I didn't say that at all. And if I did, you didn't understand my words.
I want you to explain it.
Well, I'm trying to do that, but believe me, I would never say that they're in a rut. They do what they do very well. You may call it a rut, or someone else may not hear the difference, but I admire, as I said this morning, I admire their ability to play the same line for the whole tune, whenever that tune comes along, and not vary that zone. To do that, man, takes a lot of discipline, takes a lot of determination, it takes a great deal of skill and a great deal of physical presence to play the same line for a James Brown tune, or a Parliament Funkadelic tune, or whatever the hot tune of the day is for the bass line for those music genres. The difference, I think, between their job and our job as the upright player is that our lines must contain something fresh and new every chorus. I resent that pressure, but I do it because it's part of the job. But I feel like my job is to find the germ of an idea during the first chorus and have a memory enough to be able to transfer and translate this germ to somewhere else in the next chorus, or somewhere else in the next tune, or somewhere else in the next night. Our job is to plant a seed and make it grow. It seems to me their job is to plant a seed and make sure that seed doesn't get past a certain height, and I admire that ability to do that. I'm not sure that I'd be as successful doing that, given my lack of needing to do that for a living, as theirs is necessary for their job.
When you're at like Billy's retreat here, how do you authentically teach cats that are playing the electric bass?
I don't take them for students. I mean, I have a student in New York who's part of a bunch of guys who come together on weekends to play music, and I'm determined to make him comfortable enough with playing changes that he's more than the guy who plays bass off Friday and he's attorney for the other 8 days in the week. And it isn't that I don't have interest. I just haven't had someone come to me and say, "Hey, man, I want to know what you do. I want to show you. I want to show you how to play changes." No one has asked me that yet as an electric bass player, and this guy did. So that's okay. These are the rules of my game. If you can fit into my schedule, let's make it work out. And we're having a great time. I'm having a great time.
So am I. Kenny, I wanted to ask you about a concept. I was talking to a great piano player, Hubert Eves, and he was talking about listening to an Otis Redding tune and the instant arrangements that occurred in the session. There was very little that was worked out in advance. They hit it on the first take, maybe. When you did your first album, how much instant arrangement was going on in the studio amongst the cats?
Instant arrangement? What was my first record?
Or the stylings of Bill Barron, even like that kind of. How loose was it? That's all I'm getting at. It was not over.
There was nothing more beyond a lead sheet and changes. So whatever happened during the course of the tune, that's what happened. But there was nothing discussed. Oh, let's do this here, and this in the fifth bar, let's do this. It was just a lead sheet and some changes, and whatever happened, happened. And that was complicated music. To me, it was complicated music.
Why was it complicated for you?
He had a way of writing. I mean, he didn't use a lot of 2/5s and 2/5-1s, and he had this. The way he wrote chord progressions was really different for me, and I'm talking about 1960, 59, 60, when we first did a record.
Like his own unique styles, though. He really
Yeah,
was totally
yeah.
in his own world.
Yeah, so, a matter of fact, I think over the course of his life, his recorded life, I don't think he ever recorded any standards. He only
wow.
recorded
Dig.
his own music, until finally I got the chance to record him, and we did some standards, But he had a very unique way of writing, so you couldn't play your normal stuff. You couldn't play what you normally play. So in that sense, the music was very, very challenging, But there was no, I don't think we even rehearsed.
What did you have? What internally did you have to rely on in order to play the music, not just competently, but make it transcendent music? What were the
it was just whatever was
spirit,
in
yeah,
here.
the heart.
There was a little bit of this too,
Sure,
obviously.
sure.
But whatever was in here, I kind of went with my gut and what I knew about chord changes, and kind of translated that to the way that he approached chord changes. Because again, for me they were unique.
Yeah,
he used a symbol. And I don't know if you know much about the lexicon. A triangle means major, and then a dash means minor. He used a square, and that meant no third whatsoever. So that meant the chord was ambiguous. You could make it major or minor. So that was a challenge.
The one thing you said to me in your apartment, it affected me a lot. I actually ask every cat now that I interview. I asked you what your intentions are now when you go out on the bandstand, and you said it's always been to touch people's hearts. And I want you to know how. I want you to talk to the audience about how to touch people's hearts in a live musical performance, because it was the greatest answer of all time.
Well, I think it's just important to I once heard, I don't know if you're familiar with Khalil Gibran. He's a Lebanese poet. He wrote a book called The Prophet.
Of course.
Yeah, okay? But he does a thing in there about music. And one of the things he says is that you can't make somebody cry. I'm paraphrasing. You can't make somebody cry unless you can cry yourself. So in other words, you can't touch somebody unless you can be touched. You can't feel something. You can't make somebody feel something unless you can feel it. And I think that's important. If you want to make somebody cry, then you have to feel that emotion in you. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Well, when were you first touched musically? Like where you felt?
All the time. When the first time I heard Train play a ballad, the first time I saw Train at the Showboat in Philly, and there was so much passion. I'd never heard a drummer play like Elvin Jones. There was just so much passion there. They played one song for 40 minutes, and it never got boring. It was just exciting every minute. So that touched me. To hear Tommy Flanagan play a ballad, with that touch of his, that touched me.
Actually, I was just going to ask you, Ron Carter got free bebop lessons from Barry Harris back in the 50s, but I want you to talk about why you love playing with Ron Carter.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the most gorgeous sound.
When was the first time you played with him?
Oh, my God. When was it?
Before 1977.
Oh, way
Before 77.
Way before that.
Yeah.
I think we did a record. Close to when I first came to New York, we did a record with my brother.
Yes.
And it was,
Oh, my goodness.
yeah, it was a Brazilian. I think Charlie Persip.
Yes, the drummer.
Yeah, it was the drummer, yeah.
Charlie Persip was?
Yeah.
$5 per set.
Yeah, and I think that was the first time we played together. Yeah.
When did you start to begin to just read each other so well that it just flows? Like, just you guys played all styles of music just now during sound check, and it was, it's just water. When did it sort of become that way?
Well, I don't know that it became